Hey guys, welcome to Amity Tracks, and welcome to part 2 of our Los Lobos week, the second video of 2, where we're going to wrap up our discussion of Los Lobos, our rankings. So if you missed the last episode, I highly recommend you check that out first. I gave the kind of the background and why this band is so great, and we started the rankings of. I picked 14 of their studio records to rank, and I kind of explained what I was leaving out, what I was including. And we did 14 through 8 in that last episode. And so this episode, we're going to pick up where we left off and do the top 7 through 1. And then we'll wrap things up as we usually do, talking about live albums and compilations and that kind of thing. All right. So like I said, if you want the whole spiel on what makes Los Lobos one of the great American bands of the last 40 years, check out that last episode if you missed it. But let's pick up where we left off at number 7. Now, this record is 7 is high for this type of record, usually for me. I'm usually not so into this type of record from any band, where it's a lot of collaborations. They bring in a lot of kind of big name guest artists to do songs with, and a lot of new originals, but they even sort of revisit a couple of their older songs and sort of reimagine them with some of these guest artists. It's just that, to me, that's usually a sign of sort of kind of a holding pattern, kind of lazy. Um, it just happens to really work though in this particular case. I really like this record. It's a fantastic record. I'm talking about 2004's The Ride. The Ride. And a couple reasons why I think this works, where a lot of these other type other records like this don't work as much for me. Uh, you know, uh, One of the reasons I think it really works is a lot of the guests that are chosen are really well chosen. It's not just bringing in as big names as you can find or whatever. It's guest artists that really kind of blend well and work well with Los Lobos and their style. And so I think that's one thing. The guests are really well used. And it's also what a lot of these type of albums turn out to be is it's a feature for the guest, and then whatever the band or the band is, ends up just backing them up. You know, Los Lobos is not the backing band, on these songs. This is a Los Lobos album. These guests come in and work within Los Lobos' style, and Los Lobos doesn't adjust themselves to these different artists. I think that's a plus because it still feels and plays like a Los Lobos album, but you still have this, in this case, kind of added benefit of these cool artists coming in and working with them. So this feels like a Los Lobos record. And there's some big names on here. One of the things when I was looking through, it's funny he's not listed here on the guest list here, but you look at the credits in the booklet. Garth Hudson, of the band, plays on 3, 4, 5 of these songs. I don't remember how many, but like a handful of these songs, Garth Hudson comes in and plays organ on some of these. That's kind of cool. But anyway, let's talk about some of these songs here. Now, there's some songs don't have any guests where it's basically just Los Lobos doing stuff. I think one of the best songs on here is just a Los Lobos song with no big guests on there. It's a song called Rita, which is gorgeous. It's this great mid-tempo, kind of a real Americana folk, real heavy stress on those acoustic guitars. It just sounds great. But some of these ones with the guests on it, I won't talk about every one of them, but just to pick out the highlights here. Somewhere in Time, great kind of country song featuring Dave Alvin, who honestly I'm not all that familiar with Dave Alvin, but I like him a lot. He actually sings a bit of the lead on there, and he's got a great kind of low voice, and sounds like my kind of croaky voice because I'm just getting over being sick. But he sings really well, and it's kind of singing with David Hidalgo. I think it works really, really well. Bobby Womack is a great guest on here. They start with a version of "Wicked Rain," which was a Los Lobos song from Kiko originally. And it's cool that they let Womack take some of the lead on there. He kind of duets with Cesar Rosas. Cesar Rosas sang the original Wicked Rain on Kiko. And they make it a medley and go into Womack's classic Across 110th Street, which really works. So Wicked Rain, 100 Across, that's cool. There's I guess what you would expect, very strange song with Tom Waits, Kitate. I don't know. Ruben Blades is on here, which is cool. There's this song called "The Wreck of the Carlos Ray," which they get Richard Thompson to come in, and it's like this perfect song for Richard Thompson. I mean, it's almost like you could tell Hidalgo and Perez like wrote this song with like, okay, if we're gonna get Richard Thompson to come in here, this will be a song he plays on. It's a great song. One of the real highlights here is one of their redos, "A Matter of Time," which was that on Will the Wolf Survive? I think it was originally no, it's on By the Light of the Moon originally. Sometimes I get those two records mixed up a little bit, but yeah, no, I think that's on By the Light of the Moon. Anyway, featuring of all people Elvis Costello, but it's a really good. They bring it way down, and it's kind of this sparse piano ballad. Elvis Costello sings it beautifully. That's a highlight. That's cool. Mavis Staples is on here. Little Willie G is cool. Who else? Who else is on here? I think I gave you most of them. Cafe Tacuba. I never heard of them, but anyway, they're on a song. And then, like I said, then there's some songs where they don't have any major guests, and it's just Los Lobos. So it's just a real nice mix, and it just plays really well. So there you go. All right, number 6. Some of you guys might think this is a little low for this record. I think a lot of people might put this a bit higher. I like it a lot. I'm a huge Los Lobos fan, but I do have it at 6 because there are 5 albums I like more than this. Finally, we're getting some vinyl here because I do have this on vinyl. And this is How Will the Wolf Survive? There they are. Little younger days. Los Lobos' major label, basically their major label debut. You know, they had self-released something earlier. They had an EP out before this, which I did include in the rankings yesterday or the last video. Excuse me, but this is by many 1984 considered kind of their major label debut, full-length album. You know, a full decade after they got together. And I mean, it's you can tell they've been playing together for a decade because it doesn't sound tentative at all. This is a band that already has an identity, knows who they are, you know, out of the gate as far as record making goes, and just great, Americana with blues rock, country, Hispanic influences, just awesome. Opened up with "Don't Worry Baby," great rocker. "A Matter of Time," which I just finished talking about, with Elvis Costello doing on the ride. Okay, so it is on here. The original "A Matter of Time" is on here. What else is really good? Oh, the title track. Title track is just brilliant Americana. I remember the music video on that. Might have been the first time I ever kind of ever heard the name Los Lobos, was a music video for "Will the Wolf Survive" on MTV. Anyway, I just remember this kind of tracking the life of a Mexican American immigrant or something. Anyway, good video, but great album. I think, as you'll see in my ranking coming up, I think the next record that came after this does this better, which is why I have it ranked higher. But this is still great. Okay, coming in at number 5 though, a more recent record, 2010. Now, in the second half of the 2000 aughts, or whatever we call those, um, Los Lobos, I think, had this kind of creative resurgence. Well, as you'll see, next couple albums, um, and they just sort of found, at least songwriting wise, kind of found some mojo again. And so I have from 2010, Tin Can Trust, in my 5 slot. And it kind of continues this sort of loose concept of the album that came before this, which I have ranked even higher. as you'll see in a few minutes. But sort of tracing the sort of inner city struggles of, especially kind of the Latino Southern California perspective, and just a great set of songs, really. Opening with "Burn It Down," and then on Main Street, "Jupiter or the Moon," you know, kind of again pulls in some of that Kiko experimentation. They haven't let go of that totally. "Do the Murray" is a great, I think, instrumental rocker. "All My Bridges Burning" is beautiful. Those gorgeous ballads that they do. They do a cool cover of the Grateful Dead's "West LA Fadeaway." It's kind of interesting. That's kind of cool. But yeah, this is just, to me, mainly it's the songwriting is kind of is back. I mean, they always musically they're always great, but a lot of times what separates the lower albums from these higher albums is the quality of songs they bring to the table, and this has a solid, great batch of songs. All right, excuse me. Number 4. This is crazy that I have this ranked this high, considering what it is, and my long-standing declarations on this channel about not really being into cover albums. This is a cover album, um, but it is just fantastic. It's also their most recent album, 2021, and it's a record called "Native Sons." No business being this good, you know, this late in the game, and it being a covers album. Those are all, signs that this would probably be a lesser record. I have this at number 4. I think this is brilliant. This is so good. This maybe is one a lot of you guys have missed. Go get this. Go get this. This is a great record. What makes this better than so many covers albums? Because, like I said, if you look at my rankings and other artists, and they have a covers album in their repertoire, it's often at the bottom. I got this at 4. A couple things here. One, as I've said before, Los Lobos spent their first 10 years, kind of, earning their chops, as a local band, playing parties and weddings and bars. And so they did a lot of cover music. So they're good at it. I mean, they're great musicians. They have their own identity. So it's what I've always said, if you're going to do a cover song, make it your own. Don't just slavishly try to, reproduce what was already done. What's the point? And these all sound like Los Lobos doing these songs, which is cool. So they do it, in their style. That's part of it. Secondly, these aren't just random covers. This is a very thematic album, which is cool. So, I told you at the beginning, Los Lobos is from East LA. Those Southern California, LA roots have always been really important to this band. And so all the songs on here that they cover are by artists who are from or are important to the LA scene. And so there's this kind of, it's thematic, and actually the liner notes are fantastic. I mean, the liner notes actually add to the greatness of this record. Read those liner notes, because they give you background on each song, and then comments from band members talking about why they chose this song, why this song is important to them. It's a real personal record. It's not just here's a bunch of covers we like. There's a purpose to this, and so it's really, really well chosen. Some of these songs are by artists you're familiar with. They do 2 Buffalo Springfield songs, which is okay in my book. They do a Jackson Browne song, a Beach Boys song, "War," uh, but also a lot of these songs are really obscure, and so that's where those liner notes really come in and help, because it explains sort of the background of these songs. A lot of them are kind of these great garage songs, like some of these songs are by early kind of Chicano bands, and so they kind of explain that. There's one song that they do by this group called where is it? Oh, I talked about Alvin earlier. He was part of this band. The Blasters was one of the first bands in LA. They were bigger than Los Lobos at the time, who gave them a shot, let them open up some of their shows and stuff. And so they're sort of, repaying the favor, by doing one of their songs on here. Yeah, it's just fantastic. It is gutsy in the extreme to do Bluebird, the Buffalo Springfield song. Nothing tops the Buffalo Springfield version, but they do a great version of that as a medley that goes right into For What It's Worth, which is really kind of moody, good, great version of that. A lot of it's just fun though. They're rocking out on a lot of these songs. Farmer John, the old great garage song, they tear up. Sail on Sailor is the Beach Boys song they pick. So glad they didn't pick some generic Beach Boys song that you would expect. Sail on Sailor, such a great song. The World is a Ghetto. They do about an 8-minute version of that war song. Where, oh my God, the guitar playing. Cesar Rosas and especially David Hidalgo stretch out on that. It just shows you what great guitar players they are. What else? I'm going to tell you, I put this on start to finish. Not a bad song on here. It flows well. It's thematic. This is one of those rare covers albums that I think is just fantastic. And I think a big part of that is it's thematic. There's a point to it. So, great picture of them now, aging, but they're still there, right? Same lineup too. Really, the same lineup they've had since the late '70s. And it's kind of funny. They all look their age. Cesar Rosas though, looks like the same way he's looked about the last 30 years. But everybody else showing their age a little bit. But they still sound great. All right, moving right along here. At number 3 in the 3 slot, I have The Town and the City from 2006. A late career triumph, a relatively later career triumph. Much like I talked about with Tin Can Trust, but I just think it's even done better here. Is kind of a loose thematic, the struggles, the ups and downs of the immigrant experience, especially in Southern California. It's just a really strong set of songs, a consistent mood throughout, no filler. Even on good Los Lobos albums, I have to say sometimes there's a little filler here and there. No filler. This is great from start to finish. I mean, obviously, we're getting real high up in the rankings here, but just a very consistent mood on here. I mean, opening up with The Valley, Hold On, The Road to Gila Bend. I could just kind of go through the whole track. Little Things is a beautiful song. But I just got to go through. I just give you the whole track listing because I think this is excellent start to finish. Maybe another one you might have missed because kind of came a little later in their career, but it's a gem. It's a gem. All right, the top 2 here. Got vinyl for the rest of the way out. So in my 2 slot, I just recently talked about this because we just recently did our 1987 countdown, and this was in there. By the Light of the Moon from 1987. As I mentioned in the previous video, 87 was a big year. This was a big record for them. I mean, had some hits on here. Plus, that was the year of all their La Bamba work. So yeah, 87 really broke them through big time. Yeah, they'd earned it. They've been working hard for over a decade. This, I think, continues in a lot of the style of How Will the Wolf Survive. It just does it better, in my opinion. I love it start to finish. There's no filler on here either. One Time, One Night opens just brilliant, kind of Americana. The Shakin' Shakin' Shakes is just a fun rocker. Is This All There Is excellent. Again, I could go through the whole track listing, I guess. The whole thing is great. I've always really liked Set Me Free, Rosalie. It's kind of just sort of a fun, boppy, rock pop song from Cesar Rosas, but it really works. The Hardest Time. Whole thing. I think the culmination of that early period where they really were kind of heartland rock, kind of Americana, before the experimentation of my #1 album, which should be no surprise. We have Kiko. I have referenced Kiko throughout these 2 videos. Kiko, a brilliant, from 1992, brilliant, monumental record. This is in my top 10 favorite records of all time by anybody. Go rush out and get this if you've never listened. Kiko is genius. Where did this come from? I've talked about, if you remember the first video, I listed all, like 10, 12 different genres that Wikipedia lists as far as Los Lobos goes. It's all thrown in the pot here with a healthy dose of psychedelic touches and just everything. All right, so I just made a list. I would ramble on and on if I don't have a list. I made a list. Why is this so brilliant? #1, brilliant experimentation that grabs your attention but doesn't overwhelm the songs and just become experiments for the sake of experiments. I mean, the experimentation is genius. It's all over the place. It's wacky. It's wild, but it's still solid, great songs. It's not just that. All right. 2, a brilliant flow. It travels through this dizzying styles, all these different styles: rock, blues rock, traditional Mexican, folk music, country rock, all this stuff. But it still all coheres. There's this coherent, it's this flow, and it's so coherent throughout. 3, what I've mentioned throughout these videos, the amazing musicianship of these guys is on full display here. The guitar playing, all the traditional instruments, all this great stuff. 4, some of the best songwriting of their career. These are great songs as opposed to just experiments. They're really good songs. It all comes together here. 5, at 16 tracks. Usually, if we're getting into the 16 track range, there's some filler. There's not filler here. This is one of those rare records that clocks in at 16 songs, but when it's over, you're like, is there more? I want more, And so with that length, and it's put together so beautifully, as I said earlier, it has this brilliant flow where, there's they sequence it brilliantly. You get a string of 2 or 3 songs that kind of flow together really nicely, and then it shifts gears a little bit. You get this other little batch of songs that, maybe like more acoustic bass songs that work together in this little section, and then it kind of flows into this. It's just such brilliant flow. I mean, you could say there's nothing like this in their discography, but to me, there's nothing out there that sounds like Kiko. Period. It's just lightning in a bottle, as I kind of mentioned earlier about this record. I can't say enough about Kiko. Go get this record. It's kind of cool. They released a live album. It's kind of transitioned into, kind of wrapping up this video, talking about live and compilations. A Kiko live album. It says a liner note here on the back. It says on February 24th, 2006, Los Lobos performed their seminal album Kiko in its entirety at the House of Blues in San Diego. And if you are as much of a fanatic about Kiko as I am, this is a worthy companion piece to get. I mean, they just play Kiko all the way through live. And being the live band that they are, they change it up enough to where this is worth having. I mean, this doesn't replace Kiko, but it's change. They stretch out and jam a little more. It's changed up enough to where it's worth having if you're a Kiko fan. Aside from just Kiko. All right. Live albums. I don't have a ton of live Los Lobos. There's several I don't have. I don't have Disconnected in New York. I do have One Time, One Night live recordings, Volume 1, although there is a Volume 2 that I don't have. I've got Live at the Fillmore. I should get more live Los Lobos. I've seen them. I saw them once live. You talk about covers. It really stands out to me. They played some great Kiko songs, but they also played. And this, I saw them live. It was probably the '90s when I saw them. It was a long time ago. Saw them in Austin, but they did a great cover of the Rolling Stones' "Sway," which is wow. What a great choice. Anyway, I love their cover of Bertha, Grateful Dead. I should have pulled it off my shelf. One of the few of those sort of tribute albums I really like, where lots of bands do, songs of an artist. And Los Lobos did a great version of Bertha, the Grateful Dead song on that album, and they kind of played it in their sets sometimes too. But yeah, you guys in the comments, you know more about live Los Lobos than I do. Kind of speak to that. Just real briefly, we kind of wrap up here with compilations. Got a couple. There's this great double disc compilation called "Just Another Band from East LA" that came out in 1993. So it comes out in '93, so it only goes through Kiko material. So obviously, there's a whole second half of their career now that's not represented on here. But this is a really good comp, double CD. Features a lot of rarities and a lot of soundtrack work that wasn't on their main albums, like the La Bamba songs and stuff like that. So, but again, the weakness is it only goes through Kiko. Now, the editor can throw it up here. They did put out in 2000 a 4 CD box set called El Cancionero Más y Más. I don't have it, but I've looked over the track listing. Really good up through 2000. Like this other set, a lot of rarities and harder to find stuff, soundtrack work that they've done. They did a lot of work outside of their regular albums, contributed to soundtracks, contributed to, tribute albums and stuff. And it does a great job of collecting a lot of that stuff. I also don't have this. There is a single disc, greatest hits, best of, called Wolf Tracks, the best of Los Lobos. It came out in 2006. Decent track listing, but kind of what you would expect on a single disc overview. In my view, they are overdue for another kind of comprehensive multi-disc, compilation, another box set or something, because they've just done such great work. Well, all right, guys, that wraps up our Los Lobos week. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope if you aren't as familiar with this band, this has maybe inspired you to go check some stuff out. So let's talk more Los Lobos in the comments. What do you guys think? How would you rank all this stuff? What are your favorites? What did I get right? What did I get wrong? All that stuff. And as usual, please do subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications, like the videos, all that stuff. And we'll see you next time on Amity Tracks.